couldn't stop thinking about it.
As soon as you pick up, it's like you picked up right where you left off.
Kind of compulsive about what he wanted to do. They destroyed his life.
And I was absolutely helpless.
I was a slave to Oxycontin.
I wanted to be like an astronaut or something that had to do with space. I always had a really vivid imagination, would love to draw and stuff, so like definitely something that would like involve exploration. Like, yeah, space has always interested me. Like that was like probably my dream.
I think I wanted to be a professional surfer. That was about the time I was in kindergarten, first grade, so I think that's what I was going for in life at that time.
Pro football player. Tom Brady was always like my favorite football player, and I always wanted to play for the Patriots. Just any kind of professional athlete. It's just that's what my heart was always into.
You know, so those early years, I would say, were pretty typical, you know, environment.
You know, I believe he grew up in such a loving home.
I definitely recognized that something was different.
About 2.5 years ago, my grandpa passed away.
A freak accident. I got surgery.
My dad, when I was 18, he died of cancer.
From that point on, you know, it was just like a snowball.
I believe I was about 20 years old. I started getting introduced to like prescription pills and opiates, so that's kind of where my whole addiction took off.
It all started with Oxycontin, prescription opiates.
Thought I was taking them as prescribed, but I was actually abusing them. And then when they were all gone and there was no more prescriptions left, that's when I went to the streets.
We've seen an enormous uptick in opiate prescription abuse, and thus ultimately lending itself to heroin abuse as well, or heroin use disorders. Not that there's any heroin use that's not disordered, but we don't see any social heroin users.
The idea of stuff being got from the doctor is so much, you know, more acceptable and an easier segue into it. It doesn't have the stigma attached with going downtown to a shady part of the neighborhood and getting, you know, illicit drugs, where if it's, oh, you took this out of the medicine cabinet, you know, from a family member that maybe had a surgery. It's just such an easier segue into first trying. You know, and so, you know, you're seeing it in the schools, you're seeing it in the high schools, even the junior high schools.
Every kid goes through their parents' medicine cabinets, grabs whatever they think might change, you know, might alter their mood.
I'd say, Dad, I don't get high anymore. I just look to feel normal. That broke my heart.
You know, I could be myself. So it was more, I wasn't getting high anymore. It was kind of just to be normal. And everyone was second. Drugs were first.
If you're normal, you don't want to hang out with a junkie.
It took me about like 3 weeks to a month before things like started to feel like normal again.
There are protective factors and there are risk factors, and the person is going up and down that thermometer like a yo-yo. As long as they don't hit threshold, it's like a yo-yo. Trauma makes it go up. Significant grief and loss might make it go up. One of the things that has to occur is exposure.
I just wanted to get out of myself.
It made me feel better inside. It gave my mind something else to focus on. It would just ease the pain away.
A way to relax and get away from the world, to where you know, painkillers and opiates kind of became my world.
I got surgery, I tore my bicep in football, and then I got prescribed it. And I got my prescription filled 7 times, and then after that I was just fully addicted to them.
It started off kind of slow and then just progressed and progressed. Wasn't surfing anymore, doing extracurricular activities, wasn't really hanging out with friends.
When he started ditching out on the good group of friends that he had, and then started hanging with this other set of kids, and I didn't know that they were doing anything.
The guys I was hanging out with, we got a bag of coke, and my friend was like, dude, if we shoot this, like, it's so much better. I was like, yeah, dude, I've shot up, I know. And like, I kind of like wrapped myself in that one. I had a huge phobia of needles for my whole life.
You know, there are some people I was hanging around with that were using heroin, and, you know, as a kid, that's like the thing. You're like, oh, I'll never do that. And, you know, one day someone just like mixed some in with a pill, and I noticed I felt like more high than I should, and I asked, I was like, what was that? And he was like, oh, that was, you know, Oxy with heroin in it. And I was just like, wow, well, I want to buy some of that. And then I saw that it was like way cheaper than the pills.
So he shot me up for the first time, and after that I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. When I was 14, I didn't think I was going to be shooting heroin down the road. Like, that never occurred to me, you know? And like other people that are struggling with opiate addiction, I'm sure, like in the beginning, they're not going to be like, wow, I'm definitely going to shoot dope one day. Like, no one thinks like that.
Somebody is using prescription opiates or heroin, I don't think you can separate the two anymore. One lends itself to the other, and they're virtually the same drug. And one maybe comes from a pharmacy, and one comes from the street, but they're the same drug.
Then the behaviors associated with it then becomes, you know, money missing, jobs lost, all the usual kind of like chain of events that go on when it becomes number one priority to get more of the substance.
He couldn't hold down a job.
Getting drugs and stealing money was my life.
I was spending all my rent money on drugs.
Everyone in town told me not to sell pills to this one guy because he just got sober and he already had a heroin problem. He offered to give me $35 for one. You know, I figured if it's not me, it's going to be the next guy. I contributed to his relapse. He died of a heroin overdose.
Other kids, they start off and it's been a football injury. You know, you have a perfectly normal kid who's been doing fairly well in school and is prescribed a prescription opiate. Their relationship with that drug changes them.
I was actually in the hospital with a sinus infection, getting a prescription of pills for pain I was in.
I don't know what went wrong. You know, I was failing classes, football. I became pretty much useless to the team. I was captain, and then I was really almost riding the bench. Didn't play to my best potential because before every football game, I was in the bathroom snorting Oxycontin. Every practice, I just didn't want to live that life anymore. It was just so unmanageable. It wasn't a life.
I've been surprised over the years of how many medical doctors seemingly are willing to hand this out without too much investigation on their side.
Till nowadays, I still go to the doctor and they still like, oh, you know, we have this for you. It's like, I don't think they really care, you know, what they're prescribing, especially young like teens, young people. It's like, it's going to ruin their life. You know, there's other solutions to giving somebody narcotics. You know, Tylenol would be just fine. And then I just don't think doctors really care. As a group, I mean, if they really cared, they wouldn't be selling them. They wouldn't be on the market. Playing, like being an athlete, college, like I don't think they really looked at it as if like he had a drug problem, that he's in pain. But realistically, I just wanted the drugs. You know, they always have an answer. It's always a med. Oh, this will do that. And it gets them off their back. It's no stress. And I feel like I was calling them all the time, so they were just satisfying me. They wanted to make their customer satisfied. So like, here, you know, here's another prescription.
When I got arrested, my charges were like possession of heroin, trafficking heroin, intent to sell and distribute heroin. I had to call my parents from jail and they like asked me about it. I completely denied everything. Like I just was giving this guy a ride and we got pulled over and like it was all in the car. Like I've never done that. It took me like 2 weeks in jail before I finally like fessed up and was like, I have like a serious problem and like I need help.
Like I just confessed to him like that I had a problem.
Just like, Ma, I gotta go to detox.
But I would love to just help him to, be clean.
They don't give you anything in jail either to like for you detoxing.
I thought it was go to detox, one and done, you're clean.
It always tries to like sneak its way back into your life.
When you think that it's done and you're in recovery, it's really just in the other room doing push-ups.
And then I went back to college. Same environment, so it was kind of a relapse before a relapse.
Nick would tell me that, Dad, I relapse 2 weeks before I start to actually take the drug.
Soon enough, like, I was back at it, worse than before.
Just a serious feeling of hopelessness, and I know my mom felt like that too. And she never once blamed me for it. She always was like, "It's okay, Chris, like, just get better, please."
There was no going back. I was too far into like this lifestyle to ever have any hope again.
We don't get it, that a 30, 60, 90-day program doesn't do it. And some of those programs are 6,000, 5, 10, 15, 25, 30,000. I know of a program that's 60,000 a month. And parents are desperate. So you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars thinking you can buy recovery, and you can't. The world of recovery is a haphazard, fragmented system of care.
There's several theories on the best way of treating someone who has an opiate addiction problem.
Long-term treatment. A safe, humane detoxification is necessary and needs to be accessible.
So you're hunting for 30 days here, 60 days here, 90 days here.
I come from a place of abstinence-based. The primary piece would be the actual physical detoxification, getting somebody sober.
5 to 7, 8% find long-term recovery.
I wish that we were made more aware at a much younger age.
There was a point in time when the philosophy was that if they had a hard detox, then they wouldn't do it again, and that's a very punishing model. What they ended up finding was that people just wouldn't go get detox and they die.
He had called and said, "Could I come and detox at your house?" And because of the recovery time that we had had, we realized that's not going to be helpful. And he said, our home isn't somewhere to detox, because this had just gone on so many times, these different things that had happened, and we felt like he was suffering so bad. And we prayed to God that if he wasn't going to get any better, that he would take him home. And then, of course, after that, many times I questioned that prayer.
Call his sister or somebody and say, "Look, like sounding the alarm. That's what a good friend would do."
Nick was an addict with unbearable pain, and he was beautiful, very beautiful.
And it's middle-class kids. And now that it's middle-class kids that are getting sick, now that it's middle-class kids who had a spring sport and a summer sport that are getting sick, we're starting to care. Shame on us. But let's do something